competition for the backup job, which a lot of people thought was the case when they acquired Sam Darnold. He's here to compete against Trey Lance for the second spot, and that's what it looks like is happening, Goo.
Nothing is surprising except for me the medical aspect of this. And that was what I thought, and I'm no doctor. I was just like, man, they'll probably slow play Brock Purdy. He'll be on the PUP list, but you point out our own John Dickinson said he thought that's why our guy Darnold was brought to town. And Steiny, he passed that test right now. Brock Purdy is way ahead of schedule, and they said it to the world, he's our number one. So you look at what he did last year, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't give a damn right now at this point because I'm nervous about this golf tournament. Had he not got injured in that Philly game, I would have loved to see what he would have done, Brock Purdy. Could they have said, you know what, Mr. Irrelevant, take off the glass slippers, we're going to exploit you. I don't think with this offense and Kyle at his disposal, Brock, I don't think that would have happened. And now it looks like he is right back. And you're right, Steiny, there is a battle for number 2. And you could sell me or tell me that's not a good thing for young Trey Lance.
Well, it's clearly not a good thing for Trey Lance, but this is where, I don't know, I've always, even when I was a kid growing up and I had my favorite teams, when did it stop becoming about the team? Like, I get it, Trey Lance, we drafted him 3 years ago. We thought he'd be better. He's not better, but damn, we're still really good.
Why do I feel that only happens in the NBA now? Like the Brons, the Kobes, the Currys. I don't think that happens in baseball where you take...
Well, no, I disagree. I think we're seeing it right here. I think you and many people, Trey Lance is front and center, and his inability to win the starting quarterback job is like, I think in the building, like nobody really cares.
Okay.
It's not that they didn't make a mistake.
And I understand that.
Right. So,
but we're hearing a lot of fans... They're on the Purdy wagon. So I just saying that goes against my whole thing about Trey is I just wanted to see him play. But if you're going to tell me, Goo, player A is going to get you to 15 wins,
okay, so
then
let's
hell with that dude that I'm talking about.
Well, let's see let's see how often Trey Lance's name is brought up.
Right.
He's a backup right now. He's fighting for the backup position.
Well, it's kind of unfair, Steiny, because all this starts about where we started, the number 3 pick in the draft.
But that's the point. I think Telmo's going to get into this too. Telmo, what do you got, buddy? Because I think you're on the money here.
Well, what I keep hearing and from some fans and especially Guru, he keeps harping on like the Niners, like there's this big pressure to see what you have there or whatever because they gave up, and people kept saying 3 picks. It wasn't 3 picks. They gave up 2 picks.
I'm with you.
The first year was a swap. So they gave up 2 additional first-round picks. My point. And Guru, as a man who occasionally likes to put a little something on some action, be it sports or whatever, would understand these terms. If I go to the racetrack, and there's a horse that I like, and he's a 4-1, and I put $100 on him to win.
Gotcha.
But then I say, hey, you know what? I heard about this other little horse who's got a little something in him that might be special. He's a 40-1. I put a little $10 action. If the 40-1 wins and the 4-1 loses, who cares? I won $400. Yeah. I'm happy.
Great way to look at it.
It doesn't matter at that point. That point anymore. The thing is, if Brock Purdy was a first-round pick and he had played halfway through the season, won 8 games, and been injured, there would have been no question about him coming back in his role on the team. But because he was Mr. Irrelevant, whatever, all of a sudden there's that he's not proven. He's not this. He's not this. Look, he's in the organization's eyes, in the coach's eyes, and on the field, he's proven himself to be the better quarterback out of the 2. So that's where the 49ers and Shanahan's position is at this point. And I think in terms of Trey Lance, I think he's got multiple opportunities, maybe not as enough as what some people would like him to have, but maybe that lack of opportunities. Guru's always talking about how Shanahan's the quarterback guru, but then questions him when it comes to his use of Trey Lance. So you can't really have your cake and eat it too.
Well, hey, don't hang up, Telmo. I'm in that line, and I told Steiny earlier, he's going to get credit for Brock Purdy, but the Brock Purdy result and what he is, a perennial All-Pro, is still up in the air. And the only reason it's up in the air is he hasn't played the full season. But you're right. Those kudos that I given to Kyle make me enamored with what is Trey Lance. And I'll just fight you on this, Telmo. At the end of the day, I will say this. What we saw of Trey, I did not like. I saw red flags. But Telmo, be honest, man. He played a game and got hurt in the first quarter of the other game, which was last year, the second game. And he started 2 games prior to that. Have we really seen a lot of him? I just think we haven't, but I'll understand, and nobody has to talk me into what we seen from him. Didn't look that great, and he didn't get to play with McCaffrey, and I'll just rest that there.
Let me ask you this question real quick before I get off here. If it was Trey Lance that would have come in his rookie season, taken over for Garoppolo, won 8 games in a row and a couple playoff games, and then got hurt in the conference championship, the next year people would be clamoring for him to come back, and they would give him that all-pro status just because the way and where he was drafted. But it seems to be that because of how Purdy got on the scene, all of a sudden the same standard doesn't apply as to where if a first-round pick or a first pick in the draft or second pick, whatever, would have put up those same kind of numbers or wins or been in that situation. That's my point.
No, I hear you, Telmo. I appreciate the call. Steiny, real quick, I'll throw it back to you. I gotta be honest with you, man. Before I even knew who Brock Purdy was, we had Trey Lance. So there has been a head start, people, of me or anybody else in the Bay wanting to see what was behind door number Trey Lance. And that was before the emergence of Brock Purdy. So it's kind of, there's episodes to this. This is not us choosing or not liking Brock. It's not black and white, which I tried to bring up at times thinking it might have been. It's the bottom line is if Brock Purdy was the guy that Kyle thought he was going to be and the guy that Shasky and Bonte and the 49er voice were going all over last couple summers ago about that practice, I thought the new Donovan McNabb or Air McNair was in town. So for the Telmos of the world, that's where this starts. So it's not about me hating on Brock. It's about, are we going to get to finish watching that movie?
What movie?
The Trey Lance one.
You keep saying we haven't seen a lot of Trey Lance. We don't matter. Kyle has seen enough. Kyle has seen enough to make these decisions. Here's the other thing. 3 things.
That's a hell of a point.
That's one.
Because I was going to fight you on, well, he was the starter. But I get what you're saying.
About the games.
He was the starter by default.
I bet you Kyle Shanahan's learned 10 times more about Trey Lance in practice than he did about those 4 games. 2, I agree. Here's the other thing. I'm sorry. If Brock Purdy is better as a quarterback than Trey Lance, he's just better, which I think we all must acknowledge he is right now. Who cares if Trey Lance didn't get a chance to play with Christian McCaffrey? Okay, so Christian McCaffrey would elevate.
But it's it's just an observation.
But it doesn't make Trey Lance better than Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy is better than Trey Lance, who cares that Trey Lance didn't play?
I feel you knocking.
But
let me throw this at you. Last year when they told Jimmy bye-bye, when they thought they told him bye-bye, he was better than Trey Lance. So with that same thought process, why couldn't I apply that to and you even said it.
Okay.
Hey, he called the veterans in the room and said, hey, we're starting this kid. He really shouldn't even be starting. But if he's not, blah, 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 we'll bring Jimmy back out. So in that case, they went against the grain.
Okay, if you're telling me that Trey Lance with Christian McCaffrey would be a better quarterback than Brock Purdy with Christian McCaffrey, then I'll have a discussion. But certainly you're not saying that.
No. I'm just talking about the Jimmy.
So in other words, if last year it ended up if Garoppolo and Purdy were both better than Trey Lance, they're still going to be better than Trey Lance if all 3 of them have McCaffrey in their back. The other thing is, and I tell Mo, you struck a chord with me. Where they were picked does not matter once they're picked. The 49ers did not draft Trey Lance to give him the starting quarterback job. They drafted Trey Lance because at the time they drafted him, they thought he was a good enough quarterback where he could be the starter eventually, where he could compete for the job and where maybe, just maybe, he could turn into a franchise-type quarterback. You know what he got for that? He got money. He was paid more money than everybody who was drafted behind him. So the only thing the 49ers owed to Trey Lance when they picked him at number 3 was the contract that came with it and an opportunity like every other player to be the number 1 quarterback on the team.
And he got that last year coming out of camp, and he got injured. Tough. It is what it is.
I'm going to tell you, we're going to cut to the chase here. I'm going to get, let me hear all the, you know what I'm hearing? You know what I'm hearing sometimes when
I'm
I
going to
hear
tell you what I'm hearing from you, but go ahead.
Here's what I'm hearing from you.
Okay.
Let's have a little pity party for Trey Lance and start him, even though he doesn't deserve it. That's what I hear when I give him a chance. This is what I want. We moved up in the draft to get him. It's like, okay, yes, you did all those things, but the essence of sports is competing.
Right.
And he hasn't beaten anybody out.
But how dare you put that in my doorstep when you said, and Evan can back me up, that Kyle did that.
Did what?
Kyle did that to Trey. That gave him the start because of where they drafted him last year because he had no business being the starter over Jimmy.
No.
Don't put that in my doorstep.
Jimmy didn't practice
and I'm throwing
last
no
year.
party.
Jimmy didn't practice last year.
There was a reason. Well, he was Steiny. There was a night bye-bye because it was Trey's time. Will you give me that?
No.
After you had a quarterback that just took you to the NFC Championship game. And that's why you got on these airwaves and said, he went in and told the veterans, hey, look, this may not be the best plan, but if this thing don't work in week 6, we're going to pull his ass and we're going to go to Jimmy.
Revisionist history.
You said that.
No,
You're
I
smart.
didn't.
You did not say that?
After the season was over, they were moving off Garoppolo.
Why, Steiny?
Because we're going to go get Trey Lance.
And now we're going to go get him. We had him.
Okay.
And it was his turn.
Why'd they bring him back?
My point
because they didn't hand him the position.
That sounds like they handed him to me, telling Jimmy night-night and bringing him back.
Because by the time they brought Garoppolo back, Trey Lance had all the reps because they brought Garoppolo back late.
But that's not what we're talking about, partner. We're talking about why he got the starting job, and I got you, and you can't get out of the corner.
Quit wanting a guy. Why do you want a guy at a quarterback who can't quarterback?
You talk to the head coach about that. Don't put that at our doorstep.
You want
no.
Hey,
I'm going Matumbo.
Let's play a guy who doesn't deserve it.
Don't put it in my doorstep.
And that's
the problem. He did it last year. Then,
and that's
if you're
the
saying
problem.
that, if you mean that, he did it last year, and you said as much.
That's because Lance was ahead of Garoppolo last year because Garoppolo was hurt all last off season.